Welcome to the Aging Boomers. I'm your host, Frank Sampson, and of course on this show we discuss so many of the issues facing boomers, their parents, and of course what we know is an aging population. And of course we've got another great guest today, but I want to first thank everybody again for all their support since we brought this in podcast form. So many of you have gone to iTunes, iHeartRadio, right to our website at agingboomers.com, of course. So many of you have downloaded the free app on your iPhone or Android phone. If you haven't, it's an easy way to do it. Just go to your apps, type in Aging Boomers, download it, and you'll keep updated be able to keep updated on all of our shows, which we do each Monday and Friday. And today's show, of course, is sponsored by Senior Care Authority, a professional senior placement and elder care management organization that has a national network of advisors to help in determining the right path for seniors in receiving proper care and supervision. So whether it's in-home care, assisted living, residential, or memory care, get the necessary advice from a senior care advisor in your area by calling Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231, or you can go to seniorcareauthority.com. And we have as our guest, which it's been a couple years, Steve. Time flies since we spoke, and we had an interview when I was doing just the radio show. And we have with us Steve Sisgold. Steve is an author, speaker, trainer, and executive coach, and has taught thousands how to use their innate body intelligence to create better health, prosperity, and richer personal and business relationships. Prior to being a successful author, speaker, and trainer, Steve Sisgold applied the principles he teaches in the business world. He owned and directed a successful advertising and PR firm, was number one of 500 salespeople and a national sales trainer with a Fortune 500 company. And of course, he's appeared on major radio and TV shows, and has a great blog that he does also for Psychology Today. Steve holds an MA in marketing, a BS in business, and a certification in body-centered psychotherapy. His book, What's Your Body Telling You?, launched at number 7 on the San Francisco Chronicle bestseller list and number 1 on Amazon.com in several categories. So, Steve, really excited to have you back on the Aging Boomers. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, too. I'm really excited, Frank. And I got my Medicare card recently, so
oh, yeah?
I'm speaking to myself as much as your audience.
I'm jealous. I want that Medicare. I'm not in a hurry age-wise to get there, but there's some great benefits, of course. So, there's so many things, of course, that we can talk about. But I think that one of the things that, many of our listeners are caregivers or have been caregivers or may be caregivers, family, taking care of another family member in the future. So I think with that audience, give us kind of a overview of, I know you refer to whole body intelligence. Tell us a little bit more what you mean by that.
Sure, Frank. Well, so often we just, especially in our society today, we're kind of IQ oriented, and we're spending a lot of time thinking about our minds, and we spend a lot of time, we forget we have a body. And I just think it's important for each of us to remember that, our breathing, for instance, is so important. And for anybody listening out there, just to really notice that often, I know a lot of people don't know this, but 70% of our toxins go through our respiratory system. Did you know that, Frank?
I didn't know that.
I know, neither did I. Most of us think it's obviously sweating and going to the bathroom. Right. And there's so many problems we have, like if we're breathing up in our chest, this is really good for everybody to hear, because when we're breathing up in our chest, we're actually in our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight, and it speeds up our heart rate, it slows our digestion, it stresses our organs, and these are really important things to know. So a lot of my work really in whole body intelligence is to remember we have a whole body, not just a mind, and to notice things like posture and breathing patterns, to really be aware of that so that we can stay healthy. When we're breathing properly, our digestive system relaxes, our heart rate and our blood pressure lowers. It helps every part of our body. So a lot of my work has really been correcting poor breathing with people because it's such a key thing. If we don't get oxygen, we can't live. And yet most of us are just walking around with little sips of it. And so that's my first tip about whole body intelligence for everybody listening is just notice, like right now, as you're listening, am I breathing in my belly? Am I breathing in my chest? Am I breathing at all? Most of us take very little time to just bring in our life force, our oxygen, and our energy. And when we breathe up in our, high up in our chest, it actually causes a lot of physiological and psychological stress. So that's my first tip. And the reason I call it whole body intelligence is because we really so focused in our society on the IQ. We're getting a little more interested in our heart, what we call emotional intelligence, and my work is all about body intelligence so that we're realizing that when we're squeezing or bending over, that can cause a lot of problems, arthritis and tension and even carpal tunnel when we're holding on tight to things with our hands. So I've really, even as we're speaking, been noticing, okay, sit up straight, take a nice relaxed breath from my belly, and immediately I have more energy and I'm more relaxed. So that's really where whole body intelligence came, that we've become an IQ society, and I'm reminding people that to really listen to their body more. Like my first book, What's Your Body Telling You? Seriously, listening to our body on so many levels as we go along. I'll explain how that can help everybody.
It's interesting. You and I don't know if you remember, you and I met at you were speaking at an event in Marin County, and you brought up something that I still do from this day.
Wow.
And that is when I'm driving in the car, I remember you saying, you said that so many people are holding onto the steering wheel real tight, and loosen up a little bit on that steering wheel, sit up straight, deep breaths, and I do that all the time. So thank you.
Huh. I appreciate it.
You remember talking about that?
As for speaking, it's just a matter to know, just to be aware of that.
Right. So let's. I want to bring up something I saw. It was kind of interesting. I didn't know about this before, and that is you helped a pretty famous singer-songwriter who gives you a lot of praise. One of my all-time favorites, Kenny Loggins. Maybe before we get into your book a little bit, tell us how you helped him, because he gives you a lot of accolades.
Thank you. Well, Kenny, like most of us, had things happen. We all have things happen. Everybody out there has had things happen where we've held our breath, we enroll our body, enlist our body, and hold on to the tension. And what happens is, over time, we kind of ignore it. We're very good at ignoring our bodies. But what happens is, in our cellular memory, or in our tissues, if you will, I always say the issues are in the tissues, things are remembered. We all have those body memories. And Kenny, a tremendous writer, obviously, Footloose, and Danny's song, and there's so many beautiful songs, he found that he had writer's block and couldn't get to it with his mind. Einstein has this great quote, can't really solve problems from the same thinking that created it. And that's what we do. We think something, and then we try to think out of it. So bringing Kenny into his body and into the memories, those cellular memories, he started to get in touch with some of his past concerts when he was, at his highest successful point. Things happened. He got divorced. His parents told him thought he was a big shot. His brother and he weren't as close because there was jealousy. And he kind of pushed that aside, like most of us do. and forgot about it. But then years later, when he's deciding to write another album and go out on tour again, something happened that was blocking his writing. And when we got back into his body, those memories came back, and he was able to really see that, like many of us listening, I'm sure you can relate, things that happened in the past, we're afraid they're going to happen again. And we tense ourselves up, and it was blocking him from writing. So once he got in touch with his, what I call viral belief, they're like viruses, his belief that said, if I tour again, I'll lose people. Because the truth is, he did in the past. Mm-hmm. Once he got in touch with that, kind of shook it out of his body, we worked on bringing a new thought into his body, which was, as I tour, I'll get close with people. And he started to relax, and we wrote a song together. I'm also a songwriter, so we wrote a song together, which was on his next album. And that year, he was on the Oscars and won a Grammy. Yeah. So it's not about Kenny Loggins as much for everybody listening out there. It's the same for me. When I think of something in my past, Frank, I may have told you this before. When I was young, I lived in a row house neighborhood in the inner city of Baltimore. The first time my cousins and I left town to see what the big city was like, a bunch of guys pulled out of a black shiny Chevrolet and beat us up. And we ran home. And to this day, I can be walking onto a stage, and it's almost like I'm 9 years old thinking something bad's going to happen, and I have to remind myself. So the message here is what Kenny and I and others have found is that we carry things in our body, past memories, and they keep us from moving forward. And sometimes we think that whatever happened in the past, which was uncomfortable, is going to happen again. And once he broke through that, he was able, his writer's block went away. And for me, when I get on a big stage and I start to feel that feeling, I breathe and I relax and I say to myself, that was the past. I'm here now. I'm safe. And my whole body relaxes, and then I deliver a great speech. But do you see what I'm saying? That we all carry these memories, and we don't realize they're in our body. They're not just in our mind.
What you referred to?
They freeze us.
Yeah, in your book, you called viral beliefs. Is that what you referred, going back to your childhood? Is that
exactly? Viruses, everybody listening, by the way, we all have viruses. I think we know that sit dormant, thank God, in our nervous system. If our immune system goes down, if we get highly stressed, and that's why stress is such a key, if we get highly stressed, then what happens is our nervous system starts to get active, and then we have these feelings and so forth. It like a virus, it'll make us sick. How do we get sick? Our immune system goes down, and these viruses then say, hey, the immune system's down, let's go, and they make us sick. When our immune system's high, the viruses don't bother us. It's the same thing. When we're feeling confident and comfortable, we don't think about it. But then when Steve Sisgold is asked to go out on a stage, or Kenny Loggins is asked to write a new album, or someone might be asked to do something that brings back a past memory, then it's like a virus. It pops up, and it can sabotage us in so many ways, Frank, in our lives, because we're really carrying those past memories, and we're allowing them to impact us in the present moment. So I've been helping people really get in touch through their body and noticing, again, back to that breathing, relaxing, dropping into my belly, which is the parasympathetic, relaxing nervous system. Then I'm able to just move forward and be comfortable. And I think all of us, it's a good lesson to just notice when you start to worry that, I call it spin, you're spinning in your mind, and really make sure that you're separating the facts and the fiction and the past and the present, because most of Mark Twain has this great quote, Frank, most of my worst troubles never actually happened.
That's a great one.
I mean, how many times do we worry about things, and they're not actually anything to do with this moment? They're things from the past, and we're afraid they're going to happen again. So I've helped people catch those, like, I feel that familiar feeling in my chest, or, I remember that feeling in my belly, and it can go way back. I've had, people, CEOs who give speeches, and when they get up to give a speech, sometimes they'll get really nervous and start sweating, and they don't know why, and they might trace it all the way back to show and tell as a kid, where they got up to speak to their class and they got laughed at. Those memories live in the body. They're called cellular memories or somatic memories. They live in the body, not just in the mind.
So, in your book, which I'll repeat again, it's called What's Your Body Telling You? You do say life is not meant to be an out-of-body experience. So talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, Frank, like you mentioned, you could be driving in your car and not even realizing that you're thinking about your meeting at 10 a.m., and you're thinking about something that happened at the kitchen table, and all of that, you're gripping the wheel and you don't even realize it. And that most of the time, we don't realize. I've had, people get on talk shows and I said, did you notice you shook your leg the whole time? Had no idea. Did you notice you kept leaning forward? Had no idea. Most of the time, we're not in our body. We're pretty much in our mind. We're thinking. We're worrying about the past. We're thinking about the future, and we don't even realize. And by the way, Frank, I want everybody to hear this. I'm no different. If I don't remind myself, or my fiance will walk by and see me leaning over my computer, and she'll say, "You're slumping," and I'll go, "Oh, thank you." We just are so in our minds, especially today with all the internet and everything that we're doing that's so mental, that we don't realize. And why that's important for us as aging boomers is that we want to be aware if we're gripping, because that can cause carpal tunnel and it creates arthritis. And we want to be aware if we have poor posture, because then when we get up and our back hurts, or you notice people feel like, they're shrunk over, they're bent over. So it's really important for everybody listening to, even right now in this moment, if you're listening, notice, ask yourself, scan your body. I didn't realize I wasn't breathing. I didn't realize how much I was hunching over listening to this show. I didn't realize I was gripping my jaw and my mouth. My jaw hurts. And these are kind of things that are really important, especially as we age, to take good care of our bodies through body awareness, not just exercise, which absolutely is essential, but breathing properly and scanning our body to notice, especially in situations. You could be sitting in a doctor's office and have your shoulders up to your ears, nervous, and not realize it. So let the shoulders relax, uncross your legs, sit up straight. Take a nice breath, and Frank, whenever I do that, it's just an immediate shift in my body and my energy.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, okay? So we've got I know we have a number of listeners who are taking care of a loved one, a parent, a spouse, may have been diagnosed with some form of dementia like Alzheimer's, and they're thinking, hey, what he's saying makes sense. Easy for him to say, a little more difficult to do. Try taking care of someone who, you take your eye off them for a moment and they could go wandering out the door. There's all sorts of issues, especially with someone, with dementia. A little more, the old saying, I don't even have time to breathe. And he's telling me to, breathe like this. What do you say to people who respond in that way?
Well, I think, I understand, first of all. I have empathy, and I understand that. My mom's 95. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely can relate to that. But I also know that my mom, because she is 95, obviously she has some fears. She has some things come up. She forgets things. And actually, it's been proven, Frank, that the more you breathe properly, the more oxygen you get to your brain. I mean, there have been a lot of studies and a lot of
take
work
up any more time.
Around
That's
proper breathing.
Yeah.
To help dementia. Right. So even when I talk to her, and she's 95 and she listens, I say, take a deep breath, Mom, just relax. And I showed my dad. My dad lived to 91. Frank, my dad told me at age 69, he said, Steve, everybody in his family had died at 70. And he said, Steve, I'm afraid I'm going to die. Everybody dies at 70. I said, well, Dad, I hear you, and there's some genetics to that, but also you have choice. I taught him how to breathe properly and just suggested that he starts walking. Well, Frank, the next day he went through his closet, food closet, started throwing out all the junk, and started walking between 5 and 10 miles a day. He would go to the center and meet a couple guys, and they started doing it. My dad lived to 91, actually had something happen there with his prostate. He probably could have lived longer, but that's sometimes things happen in the hospital. And long story short, my dad, by breathing properly and taking deep breaths whenever he would get stressed, he would just go fill his belly and breathe, and, it increases the memory. It brings my mom. My mom is 95. She plays bingo. She teaches canasta, and I really, really believe in my own experience with my own self and my family that things like better posture, breathing, getting oxygen to the brain, and getting the nervous system and the spine to relax and you can actually find that at least for moments, if not reverse, you can actually help. And if you anybody wants to, they can just Google and take a look and see that breathing is very much used with dementia and Alzheimer's, and just to really get that oxygen to the brain and get the autonomic nervous system to relax. So all these tips are good. I'm totally empathize with anyone that's going through or has a family member that has these problems. But I figure, it's better to be proactive, and I see it working. Right. You met me at an aging conference, and I've been helping people of all ages just to get more oxygen to their brain and more energy in their body.
And it really doesn't take up any more time. I mean, as long, it's not like you have to go, all right, exercise for 20 minutes, which isn't a bad idea anyway, but this can go on during the normal course of day, correct?
Oh, absolutely, Frank. It's like as we're speaking, I can just notice things like what a difference of when I just sit back and relax and breathe into my belly as we're speaking, versus if I'm stressed and hunched over. As I've suggested, when you're driving the car, if you're sitting, my mom, they play bingo and this and that, and I just remind her, I've been there to help her a lot, and I'll just go, take a deep breath, relax, just let your shoulders relax, and it's like, all I can say is she gets clearer. She can see the bingo card better. It's just amazing how we're not really educated, Frank, to take care of ourselves, unfortunately, and most of us are at the place where, the doctor, of course, I work at a doctor's office once a week and help patients, and in my book I have lots of exercises that are very easy to follow, but most of us aren't really empowered to do that or encouraged, And I think it's wonderful what you're doing, because we want to encourage the aging boomers to know that you can take charge of your life. You really can take charge of your health, and no matter what the situation is, breathing, relaxation techniques, exercise, never stop. Anything you can do. I love these shows and these exercises where, people just lift in their hands. And another quickie, Frank, is that movement opens neural pathways in the brain. So this is really important to know, because even my age, I'm 65, when I start moving, even as we're speaking right now, by the way, I'm walking. Thankfully, I have a remote phone. And when you walk, when you move, it frees a new neural net in your brain, so that the worst thing we can do is just to sit and stay stagnant, because then our brain starts to get stagnant as well, our respiratory system, and therefore. Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Hey, I'm a pacer, so I know. That absolutely
but
does.
But I don't know if you know, but when you pace, you're actually opening a new neural pathway in your brain. Right. When you're sitting and you're sedentary, that causes that just depression, and the mind starts to shut down. So the best thing I can advise for people is to get up and move as much as you can. I always try to get my mom to walk up and down the hallway and go downstairs and just get outside a little bit. In fact, Frank, when she was in the hospital, and because of the four walls, and started to lose awareness of what time it was, and everybody said, "Oh, she's lost her mind. She doesn't know who she is." I tell you what, Frank, I took her out of there, and when we went outside, she started to cry, and she realized, "Oh my God, there's daylight." And as I started to walk her very slowly every day, her mind came back. And within a week, I had her playing bingo again. So it's just amazing the difference of sitting stagnant and just sitting there versus breathing and moving and getting our body's natural healing ability to come back. And thank God she's 95 now and sharp as a tack. And I really think it's because we have her moving and breathing and getting up every day versus sitting.
Right, Steve. We just, boy, time just flew by. We just have about another minute or so, and I want you to share with our listeners the types of services that you offer. I know you have beside your book, which you could tell people how to get. I know you do consulting. I know you do consulting for groups. You have lots of different things. And so tell them it's commercial time. Tell them how they can get this information.
Well, first of all, Frank, thank you. I want to offer everybody, if they want, they can go to my website, which is OneDream, spelled out, ONEDREAM.com, or my name, Steve Sisgold, SISGOLD. And you can take a free body awareness test. It might just be a good thing to look at. There's some questions, and you can take it for free. And just go to my website and take a test of noticing some things around how aware am I of my body, my posture, my breathing, and other things. There are good questions there. And then secondly, my book is called What's Your Body Telling You? You can get it at Amazon.com. It's full of exercises and tips to keep us vital and strong and well. And I absolutely work with people through, like I say, breathing assessments, body assessments, and also releasing, like with Kenny Loggins' story, releasing past beliefs and traumas from the body, because that's really the biggest cause of most problems today is, post-stress, post-event stress. Something happened, we hold on to it, and unless we can release it or express it, it causes a lot of havoc in our body. So if anybody wants to go to my website, take the free test, send me an email with a question, I'll be glad to answer it. Anybody listening to the show, no charge. If you have a question, send me an email, I'll answer it.
Great, and they could get your email right on your website, right?
Absolutely, and I love helping people, and I love helping aging people because, like I said, my mom and I and all my people around me, I think it's just a time where, thank God, they say, 80's the new 60 and 60's the new 40, and Frank, I'll be honest with you, most people don't know my age because I do a lot of breathing and moving and exercising and releasing of tension, and I think we can really reverse the aging process, if you will, and keep ourselves healthy and younger. I've seen it all the time.
Steve, thanks so much. Steve Sisgold, author of What's Your Body Telling You? Pick it up. Great book. Great person. And we got to have you on sooner next time, Steve.
Frank, thank you for doing the great work you are. It's so needed. You're a real advocate for all of us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And thank you all for listening. Again, check us out, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Boomian, all different sites. Go to our website or download our free app on iPhone or on your iPhone or Android phone. So thanks very much for tuning in. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you all soon.